Okay, good evening. Got to call the order of the Committee of Infrastructure. Today is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019 at 7:01 p.m. in the automatic chamber. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman at Large Michael O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Tom Lopez is not here. Alderman Jan Schmidt, me, I am here. Alderman Ernest Jetty is here. And Ken Gidge is not.
Okay, I have received communications from Alderman Tom Lopez, who is out on important business this evening, and Alderman Ken Gidge is out with his excuse right now. So we should be all set. We have 3 members present. Let me see. We have, for the clerk, 1 communication from the Nashua Police Department Athletic League, and without objection, I'll accept that communication and place it on file.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I did skip public comment. Is anybody from the public who would like to speak? And seeing none, so we'll go to further communications, and I'll turn it over to the clerk when the clerk is ready.
Communication from Julie Chismus, Transportation and Long-Range Planning. Request from VO Ride to lease 1 parking space for free on Garden Street from April 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019. I would move to accept and place on file and authorize 1 parking space on Garden Street designated at no cost to VO Ride for the period of April 1, 2019 to December 31st, 2019.
Okay, and would you like to come into the horseshoe and join us, and please? And Ms. Christmas, can you just tell us, I know Garden Street's right in the back of City Hall here, but you evidently want 1 space to operate, and can you just explain your petition, please?
Sure. We've been operating a dockless bike share program in the city since last June, June of 2018, and some new changes are happening within the realm of bike share, especially with the dockless bikes. And one of those things is to set up what's I call virtual parking spaces or virtual docking stations. There are other bike share systems that you have to put them in a physical location, a dock that they lock in. We don't want to do that because those don't give you any flexibility as to where you can pick up a bike or park a bike. But we do want to have a designated space within the city that is kind of like preferred parking, where people using the dockless bikes can park them. It gives a little bit of order to the bike parking, but it also gives users of the bike share some level of confidence that there will be a bike in a certain location when, say, they get off the bus. So the transit station's right there. They can have, a relative level of confidence that there'll be, a bike there available when they get off the bus, or they can park it there when they go to take the bus. So it just provides some orderly parking. We also have a space off the corner of the High Street parking garage that the Parking Enforcement Bureau has allowed us to use as well. But we're not taking away a parking space from anybody in that case. We're just using a public space that is out of the way of the sidewalks and the roadway.
Okay, and you did identify yourself before you spoke. I didn't
I'm
catch.
sorry. Yes.
Yes, please, just
I'm
so
sorry.
that it could get on the correspondence.
Yep,
and
very sorry.
The clerk that does all the yeoman tasks of recording
Sure.
this. Gets it,
Yep,
please.
Julie Chismus, Transportation and Long Range Planner in the Community Development Division here at City Hall.
Okay.
Thank you.
And would you like to speak, sir?
Absolutely. My name
Please,
is
yes, introduce yourself. Thank you.
Ezra Richardson. I am the VO Ride representative, manager of the Nashua Fleet. In support of what Julie says, one of the major concerns amongst public citizens is the clutter that results from a dockless bike share. And this is a wonderful way to instill confidence in the users, but keep the streets decluttered. Keep the bikes grouped in one place, a reliable place to pick up the bike, like we know, right around the corner from the transit center. And I know that from experience operating since last summer, this would greatly benefit the program for this coming riding season.
Very good. I have to say that to have it, your idea to have it right next to the public transportation is a hand in glove type of situation. People can't get off the bus, go boom, and then get back to their route, which is enhances. So I think that's beautiful, particularly alleviate some of the parking downtown and able to, use the bike and everything. Any questions by members of the committee? Alderman Jettie.
Yeah, I support this. I think that, yeah, I think that you've acknowledged a lot of complaints that I've received from people about the bikes just being left anywhere. I mean, I understand the concept of not having, the fact that it's dockless means that you can leave it anywhere. The problem with that is that you can leave it anywhere. And a lot of people see the bikes, sometimes, even though they have their own little kickstand, they get, either people leave them down or they get knocked down, and it looks bad. So I'm glad that you're doing something to try to remedy that situation. I wonder if, I know you don't, when you park the bike, you just flip the kickstand down and it stays upright by itself. But have you given any thought to putting some bike racks somewhere around the city so that, even though you don't have to lock them in like these other bike programs, it would at least give people a place to put them so that they, that it would maintain more order. Have you thought about that?
Do you want to take that? Sure. So Ezra and I have discussed that at length, and we recognize that wind is brutal, especially the last few days. The bikes do knock over. And I mean, we do have bike racks. We do have bike racks on Main Street. And the company does encourage people to use bike racks when available. And if there are locations, we've asked people for locations for where they'd like to see bike racks. But we haven't necessarily gone out and installed them because, again, we don't want this to become a docked bike share system. We want to encourage and incentivize people to park them in certain places, but we don't want to take away the flexibility that the dockless bikes provide. But if there are locations that you think that bike racks would benefit, certainly let me know, and I'll work with Public Works to get them installed. We do have the round ones on Main Street, but those aren't the right bike rack for these, you know what I mean? Those you have to lock a bike to with a chain, and so they aren't quite the right bike racks for this type of bike share system. And we do encourage people to use them at the transit center, when they're going there. But then we ran into the problem that we had the VO Ride bikes using up the bike rack space, and people without the VO Ride bikes who brought their own bike no longer had a bike rack space. So that became an issue. So we have definitely talked about locations to put bike racks, but we want to make sure that when we do it that fit the type of bike that we have and also fit the style that we have in our downtown.
Could I
Follow up? Yes.
So this has nothing to do with parking the bikes, but since you're here, how's it going? How's the program going? Is it successful?
Very well, successful. We're in the beginning of the ridership season. So right now we're averaging about 50 to 100 rides here in Nashua on a good day. And we are doing our part to try and, this speaks to the cluttering point, try and make sure that for the riders there aren't too many or too few bikes available. So recently we did agree on a slight downsize in fleet size so that A, my team can better manage the bikes, and B, there aren't bikes being left about that aren't used. It's going very well. I'm excited for the season ahead.
No idea.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Further questions?
I do,
Alderman
yes,
Schmidt.
thank you. So you'll still have the bikes around the city, is that right?
Absolutely.
Over in Ward 1, which is over by the Hollis line, south of the airport, I didn't see a lot of bikes over there. But then again, it's rural-ish out there, so we don't see them very often. But we are close to parks. And I was wondering, you're still going to park them where people may park their car and go into a park?
We wouldn't take up a parking space other than the one that we're requesting. So we do encourage people not to park the bikes where a car would park, but they do, I think Mine Falls, the entrances into Mine Falls Park is one of the locations that we've identified that a lot of people do pick up and drop off bikes. So they try to maintain a certain number of bikes. One of the great things about the bikes is that they have the GPS in them, so we get the data about where they're picked up, where they're dropped off, and where they're ridden. And Ezra's team can use that data to position bikes where they're actually being used.
That would actually be very interesting information for us to have, if we could see a map of the usage that you're getting.
Sure.
Could you deliver that to us?
Absolutely.
That would be terrific, thank you.
Very good. Further questions by the board? I have to say, I've seen people use them. It seems to be a great exercise program. I should try it myself. But I do see them along the main street, and we have a wonderful city to apply that. So thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Seeing there's no further questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, next, unfinished business.
We have none.
New business resolutions.
Today we have Resolution 19-137, authorizing the sale of tax deeded property located at 342 Main Street. Mr. Chair, I recommend final passage.
Okay, and as we look up on the screen here, the highlighted property, that is the property that we're talking about. As you can see here, the owners is listed as us as the owner of 342 Main Street at this particular time. And reading the analysis, this resolution first resolves the city-owned property acquired by tax deed and surplus, and finds that justice requires the manner of disposition be a request for proposals. Second, 100 days after passage to allow for notice to the prior owner and mortgage holders under RSA 80:89. It authorizes the mayor to sell the property by means of a request for proposals, and it references NRO 5-116 and RSA 80:83. The prior owner has the right to notice, purchase, and excess proceeds terminates 3 years after the date of recording of the tax deed by RSA 80:89(7). Okay. Any questions by the board? Yes. Alderman Jettie.
You know, Mr. Chairman, does this method, when the city sends out requests for proposals, I'm just imagining that means, people who are interested in buying the property would then make an offer. Does that obligate the city to sell it to the highest bidder, or is it
Right.
subject to the the city considering these proposals and either accepting or denying them?
Corporate counsel could probably explain it better, and if you don't like my answer, take into account I am not an attorney. But however, the NRO does allow this, and it's been designated this is now surplus property. It has gone through the process. In other words, the owner basically is not going to pay any of the back taxes or anything. So being a surplus property, I think the taxpayers have the right through the city to act as their agent to dispose of this property and regain the losses that were acquired by the sale of the property. Further questions by members of the board?
No, sir.
Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None. Motion passes. Let's let's see, next, turn the
Next,
page.
Mr. Chair, we have
Yes.
Resolution 19-140, authorizing the sale of Nashua, authorizing the City of Nashua to enter into a lease agreement with the Nashua Police Athletic League. I move to recommend final passage.
Very good, and I'll call up Miss Christmas again I'm trying to orientate Fly over here to where we're talking about. But this purchase, this piece of land, well, you're here, let me better explain. Why don't you give us, identify yourself again. Please tell us where the parcel is. I'll try to bring it up exactly on the map and tell us what this would do as far as a garden, you know?
So I am, again, Julie Chismis, Transportation and Long Range Planner with the Community Development Division. And we are talking about parcel 83-155, which is along the Heritage Rail, it's a Heritage Rail Trail parcel between Ash and Vine Street. And this is a parcel that has already been used for community gardens, so our request for you tonight is really just to formalize the use of that property.
Mhm.
Close?
Okay.
All right. Yep, and so I handed, one of the communications that you mentioned previously was a letter of support from the Nashua Police Athletic League's Executive Director, Sean Nelson. And his letter gives a little background on this property. In 2013, Nashua PAL and the City of Nashua Department of Health worked in partnership with funding from Citizens Bank to transform this parcel. And they are doing that through the planting of community gardens, and they are supported by Grow Nashua. And so this all came about through our participatory budgeting project that we did in the Tree Streets neighborhood. And community gardens was one of the projects that was up for vote through that process. And it was the number 2 project. So how that worked is the number 1, we had $25,000 for participatory budgeting. The number 1 project was $20,000, so the remaining $5,000 went to the number 2 project, which was community gardens. And when we were looking into this, we recognized that we didn't actually have a lease with the city for that land, or PAL didn't have a lease with the city for that land, similar to the lease that Gate City Gardens has farther down the rail trail. So we're just formalizing this arrangement with PAL and the city, between PAL and the city.
That clears it up for me because I thought this was sort of like a renewal or an extension.
Nope, this
It
is,
kind of sounds like something went through the cracks. You had a wonderful garden last year for the community.
yep.
You want to do it again.
Yep, and we want to expand. You know, we're providing funding to Grow Nashua, who works with the PAL kids and in these gardens in the neighborhood, and so they will be expanding the gardens with those funds and also improving the whole parcel between the Ash and Vine Street.
Okay. Any questions by members on the board?
This is good.
It's great. It's just fantastic. It's a fantastic program, both PAL and Grow Nashua. So super happy to support it.
And have we passed the last full moon in May? From what old farmers used to say. I'm a city kid from Boston, but I heard somewhere after the last full moon in May, you beat the frost. So
Yep, when you
it's
can
right,
plant.
yes, it's time for the garden.
Yep,
So
and
there you go.
Absolutely.
Timely, absolutely. All right, and seeing no further questions by members of the board, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, seeing none, motion passes.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you
Ms.
so much for your time this evening.
Okay.
Nice meeting you.
We have also that table in committee, 019036. I have been in some communication. There is some side work going on with that as we speak under the directions with Mr. Cummings. So there,
Excellent.
again, it's one little change of the puzzle means another change, so they're looking at it.
We'll
So,
leave it on the table then?
so we're going to leave it on the table, absolutely, unless somebody wants to take it off, but I would encourage not to.
I'm good. You good?
We'll let the committee do their function. Thank you very much. Very good. General discussion. Okay, public comment? Nobody here. Remarks by the Alderman.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, I hope you feel better with the allergies and myself too, and everybody else out there suffering. There's no need to go into any non-public session, so I will entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Alderman Jettie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? We adjourn at 7:21. Thank you.